right? And of course, Zelensky's letter to Vladimir Putin calling for direct negotiations, a meeting, an end to the war, and, well, essentially with a certain threat, right? Directed personally at Vladimir Putin at this stage of the war. Putin was asked about it at the plenary session, and Putin, roughly speaking, spent about 7 minutes, I think, responding to Zelensky. So Zelensky's letter was shorter than Vladimir Putin's response to him. What's your take on it?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, first of all, Zelensky's letter was incredibly long. It was really just, it was all about the soul, spirits, and spirituality. I actually got this secret impression that Macron wrote it, because Macron is the one known for such verbosity when expressing simple feelings. Basically, what Zelensky wrote could have been expressed in 2 or 3 sentences. Get lost and go take a hike. Well, that's essentially what he wrote. So Zelensky's letter is a fascinating artifact to me because I've been digesting it for 3 days now and finding more and more layers, strangely enough. Despite the fact that at first it seemed strange to me because I hadn't read it. I was on air with Irina Vorobyova and she says, well, Zelensky suggested meeting with Putin. I thought, good Lord, what nonsense.
With Liza Anikina, I believe, Vadim Borisovich, wasn't it?
Maybe with Liza Anikina, yes, exactly. There, sorry. And you're keeping better track of me than I am, saying, Putin, Putin. And you see, my first reaction was, well, that's just silly. I mean, it's clear he's been persistently suggesting a meeting for the last 7 months, and Putin has been just as persistently refusing, so what's new here? But when I saw the text of the letter, I realized that the invitation to meet was just, well, it was just an excuse to talk. So my second reaction was that it was a deliberate insult to Putin. And so essentially, the point of the whole thing is that for some reason he decided to take an emotional swipe at Putin. I mean, it's pretty clear that actions like this are almost always a reaction to something, and they must have some kind of goal or purpose. That's why I, on second thought, got the impression that it's a provocative letter intended to push Putin into doing something. Well, that something being some kind of response, some emotional, perhaps mistaken step that should speed up the course of events. Well, so relatively speaking, as a working version, we all understand that right now for Ukraine, what has emerged is what the British call momentum. This is not the first time in this war. That is, this war has had different periods. There were periods when, to one degree or another, significant success was on Russia's side. But there were also periods when the fortunes of war shifted, and success was on Ukraine's side. Well, relatively speaking, we can say that the defeat near Kiev, that is, it was a certain kind of momentum that could have been capitalized on, but it was not. Certainly, the Kherson-Kharkiv operation was also such a momentum that could have been capitalized on. And I think that now, for the third time in the war, there arises...
The Kursk operation, excuse me.
The Kursk operation, from my point of view, was a deeply mistaken move. Well, people will, of course, forgive me for saying this. I believe that Ukraine has unfortunately squandered a very significant portion of its resources, as well as some of its elite military units during this operation. Achieved nothing. Well, one could say it achieved Putin's humiliation and Korea's involvement in the war. Well, you know, Putin belongs to those categories of personalities from whom it just rolls off, well, it is water off a duck's back. Therefore, to consider some humiliation of Putin as a success or as a result, well, it is a waste of effort, as the saying goes. Therefore, I do not consider the Kursk operation neither wise nor successful nor having yielded any result. That is, if the Kursk operation was intended as a morale booster, well, that all passes, you see. That is, if we live, relatively speaking, from one morning to the next, and we constantly need to find something like that in order to to support people psychologically during the years of a difficult war, that is one thing. But that is not called strategy. If it was originally intended as a way to try to force Putin into peace negotiations and possibly a territory swap, then it ultimately failed. Ultimately, it shifted to a large extent the war onto the territory of the Sumy region. And it wasted resources that could have been used with greater success, either in the southern direction or in the north. Well, this isn't a military perspective. I don't know anything about that at all. This is my political assessment, which I have every right to. So, from my point of view right now, it's actually just the opposite. This is the third such moment when basically the Russian military machine has stalled